Well, normally such a long spell on the sidelines would be a bit of a red flag for potential suitors, but we know there's been so many different clubs that have been interested in trying to sign him in this window. Clubs in the Premier League like Crystal Palace and Newcastle, but also European giants in the form of Bayern Munich, Barcelona, Atletico Madrid. But it looks like it's West Ham where he'll be heading for the remainder of this season, potentially beyond that too. But what impact will he have after being so inactive over the past 2 seasons? Well, that inactivity is laid bare when you consider his number of minutes since joining in the summer of 2022. 380 minutes, but look at that, 7.7% of the minutes where he's been available, he's actually played. And 2 Premier League starts, they came in May of last year when Man City had already won the title and were gearing up for the FA Cup and Champions League final too. Played just 19 minutes in the Premier League since October. But let's put that aside for now. What will West Ham be getting and how will David Moyes look to use him? We can see his heat maps from his last 2 seasons in the Premier League with Leeds. Leeds, he operates at the base of their midfield as a number 6. His ball-winning ability, awareness, passing skills saw Marcelo Bielsa comparing to Andrea Pirlo and Diego Simeone. Gareth Southgate also clearly values Phillips' tactical and defensive qualities, but he's actually opted to use him in a slightly different role with England. We can look at his heat map from Euro 2020. He started in every game and won the England Player of the Year award that year. And we can see just how far advanced he is compared to where he was at Leeds. And that was playing the double pivot with Declan Rice, where he's been able to operate as a box-to-box midfielder. So 2 options that David Moyes will consider there. Things clearly haven't worked out at Manchester City. His CV has been boosted, though. 5 trophies, but from 6 competitive starts, highlights a rare failure when it comes to Man City's recruitment. And West Ham will be hoping that Phillips can add another piece of silverware in the form of the Europa League and also help them up the Premier League table. But Dan, it's intriguing to see what David Moyes will look to do with him. When you consider their recruitment since Declan Rice left in the summer has been so exemplary, feels like they've got some good options in that midfield already.
Yeah, and as Ellen said, he was a player that Moyes wanted in January 2022 to actually go along and supplement Declan Rice. I think this is a good move for all parties. I think David Moyes takes some stick, but, you know, West Ham are sitting in the top 6 of the Premier League at the moment. They've had a couple of really good seasons under him, won a trophy. They've spent the money well since Declan Rice departed as well. As you said, I think it was quite stark against Sheffield United at the weekend in a fast-tempo game. Alvarez wasn't there. They were missing that kind of player in the midfield. And I actually think Phillips will be a player that can play alongside Alvarez or can play instead of him when he's not there. I think it will probably be Souček that makes way. And as I say, I think Moyes has done a really good job at West Ham, really, really underrated. He doesn't get spoken about enough, but I get that the West Ham fans don't all like the style. I think Phillips will help with that. I think they can be very progressive on the counter-attack, West Ham. A lot of pace in that attack with Kudus, Jared Bowen as well. So Phillips will move the ball quicker than the likes of Souček, for example, because he can get on the ball, and we've seen Kalvin Phillips' range of passing in the past is absolutely ridiculous. So I think Kalvin Phillips will help progress West Ham, and whether or not he ends up going there permanently in the summer, I don't know, but it's a great move for him because it either puts him in the shop window or, you know, he goes back to Man City and gets a move to go somewhere else, or he stays at West Ham and he's got a great move to a great team. So plenty of options for Kalvin Phillips, but this is a move that I think everyone wants to see Kalvin Phillips playing football because he comes across as a really good guy and he is a really good footballer as well. You saw those Euro 2020 heat maps. He was England's best player in Euro 2020.
Yeah. He really fits like you say there, fits the style of that quick counter-attacking football, you know, the distribution, the way he can pick out players. One of the things that Pep Guardiola said in January of last year was when he was comparing Rodri and Kalvin Phillips was that the quality of long balls is better from Phillips rather than Rodri, and he just has that spark that I think will really fit in well with West Ham. And when we speak about, you know, could it become a longer term move, West Ham, where they're sat in the table at the minute, the ambitions of the club match the ambitions of the players, someone David Moyes has wanted for a long time. So like Dan says, I think this is a great move for both player and club.
Probably right in the fact that West Ham haven't been sort of spoken about enough. The fact that they are in the top 6 in the Premier League at the moment, that's above the likes of whether it's United, Chelsea, Newcastle. And when you put it like that, because James mentioned some of the clubs that have been interested in Kalvin Phillips, they're in the Premier League, Palace, Newcastle, but other European clubs like Juventus, for example. In terms of what you've just said there, you're like, well, no wonder maybe West Ham kind of where he'll end up.
Yeah, look, sometimes players don't fit at certain clubs, but it doesn't mean that they're bad players. Kalvin Phillips will have had a lot of suitors, and there'd have been a lot of teams in recent times that would have been in for him. But the way PSR is at the moment, there's very few teams that have got room to manoeuvre, because West Ham sold Declan Rice for pure profit, 105 million, I think it was. They spent money in the summer, but they've still got a little bit of room to manoeuvre on the financial side. So they've probably, West Ham, taken advantage of teams like Newcastle not being able to do business, because at the start of the window, I thought that was a logical step, Kalvin Phillips to Newcastle. It seemed to suit all parties. But actually, you know, West Ham are ahead of Newcastle.
Yeah.
West Ham have got European football still. They'll be going at two competitions, because they got knocked out of the FA Cup. So they've got that Thursday, Sunday load. From a West Ham perspective, Phillips is going to get games. He needs to go somewhere where he's going to play. And if he stays fit, he'll play for West Ham most weeks, because he's such a good player.